motion, roll call vote. For purposes of discussion, any council member may have an item removed from the consent calendar and placed back on the regular agenda. The council will then vote on the remainder of the consent calendar items. Would anyone like to have any items taken off tonight?
Mr. Mayor, if I make a comment with respect to item 1D on the consent calendar, the MOU with the school district. Our insurance authority made some last-minute revisions to that after the posting of the agenda. Those were transmitted to the school district, I believe, today. We believe that they have accepted the revisions that were made by the insurance authority, but if for some reason they have not, if we could just have some wiggle room to negotiate within the scope of what's approved by our insurance authority, staff would appreciate that latitude.
Okay, I'm gonna pull it then. So I wanted to take B, C, and then we'll take D off. And item F. With that, is there a motion to approve items 1A, D, E, and G?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'm sorry, not D. 1A, E, and G.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second
Call
it.
the roll, please. E is, no. E is being approved. So A, E, and G.
Yeah. DG.
Councilmember Avalos,
Aye.
Councilmember Guerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Franco,
Aye.
Mayor Robertson.
Aye. Okay, we'll start with the first one, B, consideration of the resolution approving the Fresno County multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. I just had a question on page 23 on the statistics. If you look at the bottom there, table J4, City of Selma's demographic and social characteristics 2016. You look at the characteristics of race in the City of Selma, and at the bottom it says white 73.7%. Then if you turn the page to page 24, it says Hispanic or Latino 80.7%. So if you add those two, you get like 153.7%. Is that just a typo, or is there something I'm missing on this, or is this the county? It looks like the county publishes this in order to get FEMA grants.
That's correct. That would be,
Can they change that? Can they not change it? Can they review it?
we can have them take a look at that. That would be
I would hate
a logical
for
assumption that
something to
it's
be
a typo of
a
some
grant
sort.
not to be approved because there's a typo in here and some litigation happens that says, hey, this wasn't done,
Sure.
you know, the right way. And then down the line, just a comment, the page 27, I find it just different that they have other hazards that we're susceptible to as exposures, and one of them is wildfires, and it says wildfire is high significance, i.e. impact, but it's a low priority. It is low significance to the city because there are no structures within the city or its sphere of influence that are at risk to any fire severity zones. Can you explain that logic?
Basically, what they're saying is because there are certain areas, the way I understood it was because there are certain areas within Fresno County that is susceptible to a wildland fire, they included it. However, we don't have any structures that would be susceptible to theoretically a wildland forest fire.
So if there's a forest fire in the foothills and it comes down our way, there's just, because of the density and because of the spacing of the building, that there's not that probability or possibility that a fire could spread and take out our structures in our city?
Correct. I don't believe they've looked at it as though, right, it would come that far down due to spacing, and unless there was a really extensive wind condition that drew
We don't have the
things
same
back, but-
conditions as,
right.
say, Paradise being stuck in
Correct.
between a canyon of two wooded
We're not
areas.
considered the wildland urban interface. Is how
We're
they
protection
refer to it.
class 3, which is one of the really good protection classes.
Sure.
And that's there, you get 7 or
That's
9 or 8 or 9 where it's a high fire and high impact area. I did, in the McFarland book on the history of Selma, it did say, what, 1895 or something, Selma had so many fires every single insurance company canceled all their policies. It wouldn't cover it. But I don't know if that was a wildfire situation, but that was
Cigarettes.
pretty strange. Pretty,
Cigarettes.
that's why I asked, fires and Selma, but that's good to know since that time there hasn't been a situation where fire has torn through Selma and
Right.
and we're not susceptible to that fire that takes the whole city off.
Correct.
Okay.
Good
All right.
job on the census there. I didn't realize.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Well, interesting the risks and insurance. All right, so with that, I will move on to D for Attorney Rojas. How did you want us to review that?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, it was just a comment with respect to the, some revisions that were made by our insurance authority. They added some standard language to our waiver. That was transmitted today to the school district, and so we just want to make sure that the school district is comfortable with that language. So if we could just, if you choose to move forward with approval, if we could also have latitude to work within the RMA's revisions and their approval when we're negotiating this with the school
You need a
district.
motion.
Should we do a separate motion?
That's
for
fine.
D? Okay, is there a motion to approve in accordance with the RMA's
RMA
recommendations that might
recommendations.
slightly modify the MOU
Correct.
with the school district?
And also some authority if for some reason the school district doesn't accept that language for us to go back to the RMA and negotiate something that's acceptable to the RMA.
Okay, I'll
Some
make that
extra.
motion. I'll make that
Okay.
motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Avalos.
Aye.
Councilmember Guerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Franco.
Aye.
Mayor Robertson.
Aye. Okay, with that, we'll move on to the item F.
Did we skip C?
We haven't, I thought I would do C and F.
Okay.
Because they would be approved as they are. Consideration of a professional services agreement with Aramark Uniform and Career Apparel Group. Page 183, just a question just a clarification question. In terms of the termination, it's not 183 actually, it's 50.
It's 83.
Page 83. Let me check that. I have marked here. It's the termination clause. It's page 83. Thank you. Item 5 of the contract says 30 days prior written notice for suspension or termination of agreement. Is there a logic to saying whether it's going to be 30 or 10 or 45 or 90 in this professional services agreement?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, the city's standard is 10 days, and that's what appears in all of our professional services agreement. Aramark would not agree to that 10-day provision, and so they countered back, and it was determined by staff that 30 days was acceptable for this agreement.
Okay. So you will modify, in certain situations, the terms of the professional agreement based on the party that the city is negotiating with?
Mr. Mayor, certain terms, termination of an agreement is something that is rather innocuous in an agreement unless it doesn't contain a termination clause. But things like an insurance and indemnity provisions, those are very important. Those have been approved by our insurance authority. So we generally don't make those sorts of revisions, but some things can be negotiated.
This contract didn't look like it was trying to fleece us for anything or the product of two people trying to get their way with the city.
Right.
So that's definitely good. Okay, with that, I would say, I would make I would ask if there's a motion to approve items C and F. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion
Is there
to
a
approve.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Avalos.
Aye.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Franco.
Aye.
Mayor Robertson.
Aye. With that, we will move on to item 2. We have no public hearing scheduled tonight. Consideration of an emergency medical services agreement with Fresno County to provide emergency medical services in the Fresno County Ambulance Service Zone G. Chief Peterson, you're getting a workout tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Our provider agreement is up, and our provider agreement allows us to provide the services that I explained a little bit earlier. We've actually had the contract since the mid-'80s. It's been renewed every several years since then. If you have any questions regarding, I think you have the contract. This one is a 3-year contract with the 2-year option to extend. If you have any questions about the contract, myself or Dale would be happy to answer them.
Does council have any questions tonight regarding this agreement?
No.
How about item on page 119, item B, when the uncollectible accounts section, just because we subcontract with American Ambulance, how does that affect our relationship with EMS if, say, someone gets, I think we were talking about it a little earlier, if someone gets an ambulance ride and they can't pay, and it's an uncollectible account, does that mean it goes back to the county, or does it go back to American Ambulance to collect that debt?
So if it's a patient that we have picked up and the account becomes a non-collectible,
We meaning
the
Selma who
one of our
hires
two
American
Selma
Ambulance.
American Ambulance is
Okay.
correct. Since we do the billing with that, if it does become a non-collectible, that's when it goes to the county. And they provide us with I believe it was just over $13,000 a monthly stipend to make up for those non-collectibles.
So they backfill it.
Oh.
Correct.
When do they review that 13,000 to adjust for, what is the mechanism?
So I asked that question. I don't know if Dale has that answer or not. I asked that question during the process, and my understanding is from the gentleman I was talking to was that calculation was done years ago, and
Who's the policymaking board that does that?
The uncollectible funds that have been put in these contracts for many, many years was something that we started even before I worked at the EMS agency as a way to try to do something to help the communities that were running ambulances. It's a drop in the bucket. It doesn't come anywhere close to the money that you're not collecting on calls. It's just something that we've been able to leave in the contracts to try to help the cities out in any way we can. And actually, over the last several years, the amount has gone down, not up, like you would hope, like we would hope. But the money's just not there anymore to fund it at the level that it used to be.
Is there, on your analysis, because you're doing the analysis, right, you're tracking the numbers, is there any way or would there be any way where our city can actually use the analysis so we can get compensated on either on a write-off or, or something?
I'm not sure, and we're definitely not billing experts
Okay.
in what we do. We have very little to do with that part of the
But you
the
track,
service.
you track the
actually.
wins and losses?
We track data any way you would want to see it, as far as call volume, percentage of calls that you're running, and then we could work with your billing staff certainly, or provide them with information on what the amount of revenue, and they may already know of what you're not collecting based on the number of calls.
Because if we
that you
take
run.
into account the 13, is that 13,000 per month or per year?
It's actually 13,500 annually.
Annually?
Yes, sir.
And that would be item 1 under monetary compensation.
So-
Is that correct in the contract? Okay.
It is.
Have we,
So-
have we looked into that?
Yeah.
I mean, have we looked into the amount of money that we're actually losing out on the rides that we, the ambulance service versus the amount we get back on that part?
In talking with finance, it does look like it was pretty similar, pretty close, that number was. What we were getting, what we would be looking at getting from what would end up
Oh,
being
good.
collections versus what we would be getting from the county.
Yeah.
It was a very close number.
Good.
What's the actual cost for the EMS program per the contract? What's the cost here? Between
Us and the county?
Yeah.
There is no cost.
Okay, because it just looks like it's one way, and it's the county actually reimbursing the city 13,000. I didn't see any
Right.
cost other than 13,500
the
that they're paying the city.
Correct, with the understanding that we provide them with our non-collectibles, and then, they would make their attempts.
And do we bill them, or does American determine that they're uncollectible and then send that receivable list over to the county?
American just does the transport end of it. Our actual billing service is Andreas. So they deem it at that point where it goes to their collection rates as far as it hits 60 days. After 60 days, it goes to our collection management, our collection team. They try to collect to it. And once it gets to a point of 125 days or more, it's unlikely, most likely, that we're going to get anything collected after that point anyways. Again, some of the stuff you do collect, maybe the Medi-Cal portion of it, when I'm going through the write-off process, I'm writing off for the cash payments, most likely about 90% of those when I do my write-offs, because the majority of those are not going to be collected. So it's just a rhyme and reason in what you're doing. One, you're billing out a full rate to standard, say, Blue Cross, for example. Maybe your standard rate is $1,200. But again, Medi-Cal, when you bill to those individuals or those programs, they're not going to they're not going to pay the full amount. So there's a ebb and flow of one, you're billing one. Another part is how much is actually going to be paid by the health providers, and then what gets paid out as far as the collection, because the cash payments are now going to come
Are
back
you
in.
able to offset those payments, those lack of those uncollectible payments by the kind of rich plans, the rich Blue Cross plans that do pay the $1,200 and the $1,300?
Correct. So some of the information that you get out there from some of the healthier communities where they have a higher income level, you're seeing their services actually getting paid more because they're collecting the full structure. So it just, again, it has to base off our population and what our billings are.
Okay.
So
And then
there's
we
a
do
little
pay
bit
the
of
billing service, because I
We
see in the
do pay
check
the pl-
register
we
about
do.
$5,000 a month.
That's correct. Their structure is based off of how much they actually collect. I want to say it's under 4% or
It's,
4.5.
I believe it's 4.9.
4.9%. So
or
whatever they
something.
collect, they get 4.9% of that returned to them.
Got it. So if they don't collect,
They don't get paid.
They don't get paid. So
That's
they
correct.
have to collect to get paid. So it's in the city's interest to have a system like that, because the city's not out any money if they don't actually collect the funds in the first place, other than the value of the ambulance
So the
rights.
cost of the service.
The cost of
Yeah.
American Ambulance.
Correct.
On your write-offs, is it yearly or?
We do it yearly. We do it yearly.
You're carrying over for the following year also?
That's correct. So we create a receivable at the end of the year. We write off a good chunk of it because I know at some point they're not going to be collectible. And again, a large portion of that is going to be cash bill customers. We're going to write off a majority of that because we know historically you're not going to get it.
You can't even go to Medi-Cal for that.
If we don't have the
There's no
information, we can't
coverage.
bill anything. So you're going to have a patient that, one, either didn't provide information as far as insurance itself, so we're unable to actually bill anybody, so we have to bill them manually. Some of it's going to be transient. Some of it's going to be different people that just don't have identification or things like that, so we really can't bill to anybody. Some are just going to be straight cash payments. Sometimes they'll pay it, and they'll send them on a payment plan. So it's just a combination of what your demographics are doing.
And that's 1 in 5, 1 in 6 riders.
Well, that's one thing where me and Chief were going to talk about. We're going to talk to our billing service and get some raw data back from them as far as what they're seeing as a collectible and what they're kicking out to, what that ratio is.
Because
to
they
get
have a
that sales number
stabilization.
for you.
They seem to be about $5 or $6 grand a month. Does that mean they're collecting 94? They're collecting that, that 6%. We're getting 94% of they're collecting just about the same thing every month, or do they just bill us and then true it up at the end of the year?
No, they're
based on
billing us for what they
collect?
actually has occurred. That billing is really a true up each
Seems
period
pretty
too as well.
steady.
So it has been pretty steady. They've been doing a better job over the period of years. So it is one thing that me and Chief do assess and what they're doing.
The last few months have actually gone up. We get the invoice and look at it, and if it's the one bill when it's high, I'm kind of excited about it
Because that means they're collecting more, right?
collected
Yeah.
off of it. Yeah, and we're actually over budget on the billing, which indicates to me that they've collected even more than we anticipated.
Okay.
So again, I think we'll go back to Andreas, me and Chief, and have that conversation. What do these ratios actually look like? And we can come back with you with a little more clear
It'd be
information.
interesting to know that, what
Okay.
the uncollectible ratio is on that billing. Anybody else have any questions?
Nope.
Anybody here tonight have any questions for emergency dispatch services, the contract? All right. Okay.
Thank you.
This is a action item to vote on the contract tonight. Is there a motion to approve the contract for emergency medical services with Fresno County through June?
I'll make a motion to
2022?
approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Franco.
Aye.
Councilmember Guerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Avalos.
Aye.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Aye.
Mayor Robertson.
Aye. That will move on to departmental reports. Dale, thank you for coming out tonight. We appreciate your time and your expertise. And then we'll start with our city manager, departmental reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Just wanted to share with you a follow-up on the recent ICSC conference that the assistant city manager and I went to. That is the International Convention of Shopping Centers, and that's an opportunity for the city to go and work on retail and restaurant recruitment specifically. It also, there's a lot of other information areas as well. Just wanted to share with you some of the things that we had prepared as we went to this in preparation of going to the show. I think that you have copies at your desk. The city last year did these. You don't all have one of these, so I'll just show you this business card that also is a flash drive that has demographic information on it as well as a video. And then this, so we took those. We also this year did this kind of like a postcard with, what do you call these codes? QR codes. And so you scan it on your phone, and instead of giving people a lot of data or paperwork, they can just go to a website that has all your demographic information on their phone or on their laptop or tablet. Right. And it also has our video and demographic information. And then we also have our flyer, which has a lot of this information as well. You have a copy of that. So we had a lot of tools depending on who we were meeting with and what they wanted to see or what they wanted to take with them. And people had different preferences. So we used them all just depending on who we met with and what they wanted. But we'd like to show you here's the postcard, and here's where it launches to. We had a website page created specifically for the postcard, and it's now linked to our website. But it just really is specific to Develop Selma. And we'll just kind of scroll over the different pages. You can go there yourself as well. And here we can go to the video. I don't know if you've seen this, but this is a really positive video about the city of Selma.
Welcome to Selma, city population of 25,000 and future home for Central California's fastest growing regional center for small business, major retail, distribution centers, and commercial manufacturing, with over 150,000 people who live within a 20-minute drive of Selma. We have opened the doors for economic growth. Selma is now positioned to welcome you to our area as we pave the way with the business-focused, get things done attitude and incentives that will ease your company's transition into the Selma community. The city of Selma is already known as a suburban location with big city amenities. From our acclaimed art center to our historic Pioneer Village, it is all at the back door to major national and worldwide attractions such as Yosemite, Kings Canyon, and Sequoia National Parks. We are a city with strong appeal, award-winning schools, exceedingly recognized healthcare, and established neighborhoods with a new 690-acre residential development in the works. For any business looking to expand, relocate, or establish a new location, Selma offers business-friendly local government, but more important, the ease of attracting customers in and out of our area. The reason? We are perfectly located on Highway 99 that runs from Sacramento to the north and Bakersfield to the south. Our geographic location allows us to offer businesses an opportunity to be within proximity of surrounding communities that represent over 150,000 customers who make this area their home. Freeway traffic alone offers 60 to 70,000 estimated vehicles that pass through Selma each day. It's no wonder we're a home to major auto dealerships. Other established industries include a specialist in heavy machinery, manufacturers, farm implements, to extreme manufacturing with robotic technology. As we look to the future, we will continue to expand our floral business corridor and are excited about our newest development, Selma Crossing, located on the south side of our city. This is a 3-phase project consisting of 3 million square feet of mixed-use commercial, office, and residential space. This project is fully entitled and ready to move forward. The Selma community invites you to explore our city as you look to be a part of the growing regional shopping expansion. or for the industry and manufacturing opportunities. See why people far and near travel to our community to make major purchases, enjoy the wide range of accommodations, or to savor the delicious foods that represent the many cultures from area restaurants. Come for a visit, then stay for a lifetime.
That's great.
Very nice. Who
Yeah.
did the video?
Who is it that did the video? It was done last year. I don't recall the name of the company. I can. Yeah, we can get you the name. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but yeah, I think that's a very nice piece, very professional.
Oh, yeah.
Represents us
Very
very
nice.
well. So at the conference, we partner with the EDC, the Fresno EDC, and they have a person that is funded through a grant for several years that helps our city as well as other local cities that are part of the 5 cities JPA. And they help us specifically, this person funded through the grant specifically helps us with this retail recruitment. So she arranged for appointments and reached out to, for us and other cities that are represented by the EDC through this grant. And she put out 326 requests, she said, reached out to 326 different entities to try and get meetings for us and others. And we ended up with, we had 5 meetings, and we had 2 tentative meetings that didn't happen. So we had 5 meetings, and then Isaac and I did 29 drop-bys. So we had a total of 34 contacts that were made. Of those, 14 were restaurants. That's full service, limited service, and fast food, so combo. 12 were retail, 5 were service. We talked to one that's a developer that does specifically grocery-based shopping centers, and then 2 hotels. So those are the groups. That's what we were able to do in a couple of days. I think those couple of days were really good. It's a pretty efficient way to get a hold of contact information for the Central Valley. And that's, when we talked to them, it was about if we couldn't actually get in at the drop-by to actually meet with the Central Valley rep, sometimes we were able to do that. But if we didn't, we at least were given that contact information. We found out, whether or not they were expanding in this area, if what their demographics were that they were looking for, and if we fit it. So within 2 days, that was a lot of good contacts. A lot of the restaurants that we talked to were franchises, so that is another thing to take into consideration. Some of the franchises had somebody in the area that they were already courting in the region, and that might happen, and others are looking for somebody that would get that franchise license for the area. So there's a lot of follow-up to do here now, to write them and let them know, thank them for being there and the opportunity to connect, or letting them know we'd like to connect, and send them some information about our city, and just continue to follow up.
Thanks for making that trip, both of you. We appreciate it. Is Target back in the market yet? Are they coming? Do they have anybody there at the show?
They didn't have a booth.
They haven't been around in a while. Okay. We'll move on to our city attorney, Rojas. Thanks. That will move on to our city attorney.
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Finance.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Today I'd like to do 2 presentations. The first one starting is our 3rd quarter budget updates for the fiscal year of 18-19. So like our other reviews, we'll go through the general fund. We'll also go through Measure S. We'll be looking at budget versus actual, and some of the key factors that affect both the revenues and the expenditures within those funds. So for the general fund, we're looking at it, again, this is going to be looking at 3 quarters. So your estimated total budget for that point would be about 10.3. Again, our full budget is 13.8. Some of the revenues and expenditures, as if you noticed it, are estimated in. Some of the taxes and franchise agreements, again, not really being paid out till mostly the end of the year or end of the fiscal year. Some of the professional services that are still outstanding, some of the billings, we project those into the numbers as well to give us an estimate of where our forecast is. So looking at the general fund revenues, again, budget 10.3, actuals coming in is about 10.2. So you can see an overall amount variance between the two of 57,000. So, but we're still at the estimated budget marker of collecting 75% of our total revenues. Some of the key factors looking into this is some of the higher percentages. The police operations department bringing in about 85% of their total budget revenues already. Again, one of the key markers of looking at our projected revenues and where we stand is in Department 0000. That is where our sales tax and property tax and things come into. So having that at a 74% marker gives you a good indicator that where we need to be. Okay. Planning, a good indicator that the revenue streams has increased. They're at 86% total budgeted revenue so far. So you can see an increase within that department as well. Okay. Looking at the expenditures, again, they're supposed to be about 10.3. Their actual is about 9.6. So our actual budget amount versus our actuals is actually less than. So you see we're at about 70% of what our budgeted revenue, our expenditures are supposed to be. Some of the key factors in impacting this would be the planning department. You do see an increase in that department because of the services that we're incurring now. Also the fire prevention. That percentage is at 89%, but that's because after the budget, we did the shift between the fire marshal and the division chief. So you actually have a savings within the Department of Fire Administration to offset that. Okay. So looking at the expenditures and revenues overall, you're looking at a fiscal gain projected at this point for $610,000. Is there any questions regarding the general fund before we move on?
And that's through 3 quarters.
That's through 3 quarters,
9
correct.
months, okay.
So all in all, for the general fund itself, where we need to be. You are showing a gain. We do have an increase in our sales tax from our projections from when we did the budget year, and we're taking those projections and increasing the budget for our next coming fiscal year. Okay. So our next fund that we're looking at is Measure S. Again, the budget revenues are expected to be at 1.2. We actually see our revenues at 1.3 with a variance of $47,000. Looking at the budget expenditures of 1.2 is supposed to be our marker. We're at 1.3 with a variance of 105,000. So again, their total loss for that fund is 74,000. Again, if you think about the actions that we've taken with the lease that is actually being funded out of this fund itself, you're projected to actually take a loss because of that. So that lease was being funded out of prior fiscal years, not current. So your budget is still intact for where it's supposed to be and on track.
Lease of what?
This is the large fleet purchase we made.
The 10 vehicles?
It was about 11, but yes. So again, we're on track. Okay. So that concludes my presentation. One thing I did want to note is, given some of the feedback that we can get in through the budget process and information being relayed back to you, I will, in the coming years, going into the next fiscal, change this. This has been my template for a little bit. I'm actually going to start adding additional funds. I'm looking to bring in probably all the enterprise funds and have that presentation. We'll go through the same analysis, but I would like to give you that information so that you have it. Is there any other particular items that you can see that you'd like me to expand on during my budget presentations?
That would really help, because you know that IGT and that ambulance fund all of a sudden became this huge pot of money that I don't think a lot of us saw coming. So it's good. It was a good surprise, but I don't think we really want those surprises. We want to know kind of real time when that happens. And if you're making enterprise funds part of the quarterly, is that what you're saying?
That's
part
what I'm
of the
saying.
Quarterly.
I'm going to do all the enterprise funds. That's correct. So we're consistent across the board.
Okay.
Okay. So
I'll
not just
keep those
ambulance. We'll look at all of them, so we can have a better
more on
marker.
that. That's good.
Because and the reason I choose the enterprise funds themselves are because they're subject to change, right? So our other project funds, they're special project funds, they're special revenues, there's certain things. Well, what the enterprise forms actually need to perform to be able to pay to sustain. So we'll actually look at those numbers and throughout the year and how they ebb and flow throughout.
But you'll be able to tell us if those are accruing funds, so the next future, you're actually giving
That's correct. So, like, we go through the third quarter, again, you're always making estimates of some type. For example, if we're looking at the arts fund, it's an enterprise fund. While they can incur a large expense in a quarter that we're looking at or just occurred because they're paying for all their show expenditures. So we'll have that conversation on what those things look like and what's coming in and out. A negative is not really a negative because our projected revenues are coming in the next month.
Yeah.
So, but we'll have that conversation when it comes to that.
So that'll be more of a snapshot in time of what it is at that moment. However, you will be looking at it on a 12-month basis as well, projecting numbers in the enterprise
I'll
fund
project out
well.
as far as I can. For example, again, if we have a show that's in the works, we incurred all the expenditures, well, our conversation with arts is saying they're projecting these type of revenues for that show. We can see some preliminary stuff that maybe they're doing, so a little more detail they'll go into it, but
Yeah.
we can have that conversation, yeah. Okay. Any other questions or anything else you'd like to see during my quarterly updates? Okay, thank you. That's fulfills the budget. The next conversation I'd like to have is really an update coming back to a meeting that I went on May 9th. It was called a California Financing Coordinating Committee. And so what they did at this meeting is actually go through some of the departments that are actually giving funds and loans and programs and really kind of not go into a deep analysis, but tell you what these programs are utilized for. So one of the programs that was there that they discussed was the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, USDA. So I did attach to your packets some of the programs and parameters that they actually provide. I'm sorry, it's kind of lengthy, but it gives you a good description of what people are doing out there. So for that program, a lot of it had to pertain to population size. So one of the good things and bad things about Selma is we're at the marker where we're not a super small city, but we're kind of over those thresholds. So some of these programs you're going to qualify for and some you're not. A lot of them are hitting thresholds about only a couple thousand or a max of 20,000. The Department of Finance just released a report that we're looking at about 25,000 again. So we're always coming back between 24 and 25, but we're continuing to stay around that number. So we're not going to meet a lot of these programs. For example, the population size, we're not a federally recognized Native American tribe. We're not bordering on Mexico. Some of those parameters they have in there are, again, for everybody. So we're not going to meet a lot of those qualifications when it comes to the USDA. They do have other programs outside of this. A lot of the USDA comes from small interest loans, though. Okay, so that's what you'll see out there with the USDA. They do have some other smaller parameters that we're going to look into. There was a component that our grant writer actually brought to us, which is about funding improvements, something for like downtown and things like that, creating an evolving loan. So we're looking at these already, but this is just some of the stuff that came out of this meeting. One of the other organizations that they would present, the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. A lot of this is going to be built around ponding basins, and you're going to see that common theme nowadays coming with Prop 1 and 68 and things like that, where they're going after recharge. So a lot of those grants are going to be in that nature. The next one was going to be California Water Resource Control Board. Same thing. They had some grants and some loans. Some of the loan principals could be forgiven, though. So when we start looking at programs and what we need to do, we'll look at all of these. The next organization was California Department of Water Resources. So they're funding a lot of their grants and loans through Prop 68, Prop 1, 84, 1E, 50, and 13. So again, these are a lot of water things we can utilize. What we can use this money for in these grants are for our infrastructure for sustainability and the storm drain system, and make sure we're collecting all that water that we can so we are recharging it and doing our part. Okay. The last component that was actually there was HCD, so California Department of Housing and Community. This one was really geared around CDBG funds. And so as you're aware, we actually are part of the county program for the CDBG funds, so we didn't really qualify for this part of the program. But I just want to kind of give you an update on how that happened, and what occurred, what we discussed. So there are some grant opportunities. A lot of this we're going through with Townsend and discussing already. Like you hear us talk about the park grants that are coming out. Prop 1 will be coming out pretty soon where we can go after some of this money. We're going through a planning phase for the Prop 1 funds. We didn't submit anything for that that grant because all the projects that we have that are water related to fit that criteria are for they're only funding planning as far as preliminary engineering and things like that. We already have that done, so we didn't need to apply for any of that. But we will be going after the Prop 1 funds for storm drain projects coming here in the future.
How much is left in Prop 1?
The overall balance, I don't know. I know they funded their first round. They're now coming back to the second one.
Right? We did our
Yeah, it's still
integrated
supposed to be
regional water
very
master
big.
plan, so
Yeah.
at least we're qualified now
Yeah,
to go after that money.
correct.
Okay, there's still money there. And will our new economic development person that we're budgeting in this year's budget, will they be working with Department of Finance, the assistant city manager and city manager on grants specifically, or economic development in general? Will it be a new person, or will it be adding duties to someone, or how will that be translated into the budget?
Well, currently it's in the budget as a new position that would be economic development primarily, but that may have the opportunity to do some additional assistance with grant writing, but it is primarily a development specialist position.
Okay,
Did I answer the question?
yeah, but with that digging up revenue opportunities like this, that would be part of it that this person might assist with? Or mostly marketing and getting out there and selling Selma?
Right,
Going to
and
ICSC and
primarily it
going to these
was
shows?
a development position for economic development, so that was primarily the
Working
focus.
more with the EDC and trying to attract businesses to Selma.
Right, developing business recruitment, retention, expansion programs, assisting with things for the incentives for downtown. There are a variety of things that council had made a priority that position could support us in.
Working on opportunity zones both within Selma and getting us on the list of opportunity zones in
And
the federal government.
if there are things that come up that involve a grant, that we can certainly, that fit into that certainly makes sense as well. But it was principally for development.
It seems like what I've seen USDA is a lot of loans, but not a lot of one-for-one grants, and that money's shrinking a little. It seems like that budget's going down a little bit. So hopefully we'll be able to qualify for some of that.
And as our assistant city manager pointed out, there is always that challenge of the population, because we're kind of in the spot where we're a little bit bigger than the smaller communities, but sometimes we just don't quite meet the population requirements. But we'll keep an eye out for them when we do.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Anybody have any questions?
Isaac, you mentioned a grant for downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a grant now existing for downtown?
No, we're starting to look at different grants where there could be maybe a revolving loan
Okay.
for small improvements, things of that nature, but we're looking into that now. We've already started looking into that.
Okay.
It'd be more for the building structure owner, the business holder. Yeah.
And
More
that would
of
be for,
beautification,
like,
most likely.
repainting
But
the
again, we're barely in the
building
beginning stages of talking to our grant writer
For
about that.
revitalizing.
Or
the building,
revitalization.
re-roofing.
Yeah.
The question I asked was it pertaining to the landowner or for the person that's occupying the building?
For the tenant.
That's what the
And it's
question.
Yeah,
mostly
usually
the
because if
building
a
owner.
loan of that structure, you blemish the title and things of that nature, so it usually has to be with the landowner or the property owner.
What about something like, what we were talking about, adopting a block or adopting a tree, put lights around, things like that? How would that be funded? Could it be funded with this project?
I'd have to look into it. We can get back. Again, we're barely looking at that aspect of it. So we're barely in the beginning stages, so I'm not prepared to give a full presentation on something like that. We're just trying to see with our grant runners what we can and can't do, what's feasible, what's out there. So
Great.
we're having those preliminary
Great
conversations.
ideas.
Would like to reiterate that this was a follow-up to that event that you went to.
Correct.
So we wanted to report out what came about from going to that and sharing that with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move on to Public Works. Shane?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, a couple things to report from Public Works. We've done some shelter renovations at our parks. We did both shelters at Ringo Park, and we're currently working on the one at Bredlinger Park. We just kind of took it upon ourselves to be proactive and do it. They were in need of desperate repair. They're used all the time, so
Yeah.
we're doing it. In the past few weeks, we have replaced 32 light fixtures at Schaefer Park. We retrofitted them all to LED. Me along with Mike Kirschner, Alves Electric, and my guys have done it. They will provide better lighting in our parks. They will save power. These fixtures we installed use 2/3 less power than what was originally installed there. So we should see a significant decrease in our power bills. we're gearing up to start street painting, which we do every year about this time. School's out next week, so we'll be jumping on the schools first, and then we'll be just continuing on trying to paint the city. And then one more thing for Public Works, we have a short presentation I'd like to give to you guys. It's about a project that we started about a little over a year ago, when Henry was here, Henry Perea and Romeo. David Arbello, which is a coworker of mine, was the catalyst for the idea. And he got approval from Henry to do it, and Romeo. We bought the materials for the project out of Public Works funds. Everything else in the project has been donated and been volunteer. So with that being said, I'm gonna bring David up. We got a little PowerPoint for you. We've got a couple of handouts for you guys, and we'll just move forward on it.
Thanks, Dave. Oh, there we go. Okay.
One more thing I want to say, you guys, is I presented this to Teresa. It's been a month or so now, and we spoke about it. We figured this was the right way to move forward on the project. Present it to you guys and get you guys all up to speed on what's going on, and hopefully get your approval.
Nice.
Okay, my name's David Arvello, so I'm presenting the update of this sign. The sign was, like Shane said previously, okayed by the old city manager and Public Works. This sign, it will be put in a position where when you come off the freeway, you will be seeing the signs on northbound and southbound in our little islands. So your first page is, you can see where we propose to put it. So when you come down to the island, you're gonna see a sign that says Selma, and that's on the front page of there. On the west side and the east side of the freeway, there will be a sign. So the sign started out as being cut by Greg Lair. John Rosati welded the signs, and then S&K Auto Body painted it and lettered it. So it gives us the finishing product. So we're at the point now where we're ready to install the signs.
How tall is that, Dave?
The signs are approximately about 5 feet high.
Okay. How wide?
5.5 foot tall by about 6 foot wide.
5 and 6.
They're all steel. We're gonna put in our plan is to put in some footings on those islands and put in breakaway anchor bolts. Whereas if a car was to hit one of the signs or something like that,
It would fall over.
just fall over instead of
Staying
staying
static.
solid, yeah.
Sure.
They're 100% steel constructed.
Are they lighted? You're gonna put some
They're
ground
not
lighting?
lighted, but I have done some research, and I am about 85% on the lighting.
Okay.
Getting lighting, like uplighting installed in those islands,
Right.
so there's light on the sides.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're gonna landscape, we're gonna fix up those little islands, so when you come into Selma, you're gonna see just a beautiful sign and everything in your, so our goal is to invite, visitors and welcome them into the heart of the city. So when they come into this town and they go, man, this is beautiful, I'm gonna just keep going, and, hopefully they shop here and stay here for a while, because obviously we're a town that you're gonna stop from traveling from LA to Sacramento either way, so people have to get gas, food, and stuff like that. So your first impression coming in, you want them to see a nice sign or something that shows it's our city pride. So that's what there's our sign right there, and that's what we've developed.
And that'll be at both, at Floral and at Second?
This one is at Second on the islands there.
Both islands at Second?
Both islands at Second. And
Nice.
the two
Makes
signs
Second look
are
a lot nicer.
lettered on both sides. So when you're traveling down
It's gonna
Second
really
Street,
make
you
it
can
look
see
good.
them on both sides.
Yeah.
Not only when you're coming down into the freeway,
Yeah.
but as you're traveling down Second Street, you're seeing them on both sides of the street.
And one more thing, let me say that this is just a proposal. And this is just an idea that we have come up with. Dave was the catalyst of the idea, like I said. And once I heard about it, I jumped on board 100%. A couple other my other guys did, and we've used our own time to make this happen. This is not set in concrete or anything. Where it's got to go. We're up for options. We just wanted to propose it to you guys and get your opinions and put all our minds together and hopefully make it happen. So we're open for any suggestions or options.
How far is it ready to go? Is it ready to get
Yeah.
ready to put it in, or
Signs are
Okay, you do-
whereabouts are you?
The signs are done.
Okay.
Can you do it tomorrow?
Dave, can you put the photo of the sign again? I just
Yeah.
want to kind of mention something in regards to where the grapes, when you have purple against black, you can't really see it. But if you outline it, just maybe with the white outline, the grapes, then it would pop.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm just,
We can put
just
it
a
a little bit.
suggestion.
Very good.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just that you can't really see if we're going to emphasize the grapes. I think that's beautiful. But just if an outline would really pop.
Perfect.
Hey, it's beautiful.
There you go.
I think that's a great idea, and the sooner you can put them up, the best.
Is it-
I mean, we need this. And that's exactly what, I'd like to continue that with our downtown.
Exactly, that
Yeah.
was our thinking. We know how important revitalizing and making downtown special is, and like I said, Dave's a thinker. He came up with the idea, and we jumped on board, and here we are.
Perfect.
I don't-
Thank you, both of you.
I think these signs look great. I don't know if it's too late or if it's possible to somehow have a way to direct people to downtown Selma. Welcome to Selma downtown, and have like a downtown like an arrow that way, but it's an improvement with it or without it.
We do
Mr.
have-
Franco, just for your information, I replaced all the directional signs in town, the big blue signs that say City Hall, Chamber of Commerce,
Yeah.
used to say Courthouse. We removed Courthouse off those signs and put on the Art Center for me and Teresa, and those have all been replaced now. There's a sign there as you get off the freeway, southbound, shooting you into downtown. It tells you Chamber of Commerce, City Hall.
Yeah, I'm just saying
Art
those
Center.
signs are eye catching. So it's, if it's somehow it gets them going toward
Incorporate downtown
Yeah.
and
I
direct
think
them that
signs
way.
are great.
Anything's possible.
Well, yeah, and you're not gonna be focused on those empty signs up above. You're gonna
Oh,
be
yeah.
focused on Selma and looking in
Right.
to see what's downtown. And we get that Veterans Park going too. It's gonna look nice as well. It's all about leading that visitor downtown.
Your first impression when you're coming off that
Absolutely.
Making that
freeway and you
first
see that
impression.
sign, you're gonna wanna shop here. You're gonna
Yep.
wanna
Yep,
look around.
Mhm. Looks really
great
nice.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
This has all been donated.
This has all been donated and volunteer.
What would it cost if we did those signs?
I'd have to look into it and figure it out.
25 cents?
Probably.
No, couple thousand.
The signs, like I said, we bought the raw material for
Just
the
the
signs.
powder
We took
coating
them
is
out to a guy
expensive.
that has the CNC, water jet.
Just the materials.
And he did all the cutting out for us. I took it to a partner of mine, John Rosati, is a former iron worker. He did all the welding on his own. Then we took him to S&K. They volunteered and they donated
They
the
paid it.
painting.
They paid for the
Auto
paint
paint.
and
They paid for everything
the
we wanted.
lettering.
Wow.
Beautiful.
S and
Probably
K.
looking at maybe
So
about 3,000.
Yeah.
yeah, I would I would
say
imagine
price
that
tag on about
$3,000-4,000. Yes.
Just to paint and
Bless
welding.
you.
Bless you.
And the welding.
How long will it take you to put them in?
If we get the okay, it shouldn't take us,
3 weeks.
a couple weeks. We'll
Do,
have it done.
do we need a vote on
We're
this,
gonna go out
or
there and
do we
walk- we
need
wanna go
just
out
a
there and-
consensus? Just a consensus or a vote? It's not.
Mr. Mayor, this item is not on the agenda, but I think that given the remarks that have been made by the council, that staff understands what the council would like to have done.
Okay.
Make a point, David, I'm not saying anything because it's part of my family and I don't wanna, but I do appreciate you guys doing what you do. My family's, SK, so.
Uh-huh.
They're good people. They've been.
Yeah,
I can't say it.
definitely, would like to thank all three of those people that donated in some way or another.
If we go
Um,
install, we'd like to have a little ribbon cutting and maybe have the people that donated their services to doing the signs to be out there and give them a little ribbon.
Oh, yeah, maybe
well,
we'll
Yeah,
do
I
that.
w- definitely would like to cover them and then
I'm not
have a
standing in the
ribbon
street
cutting
without it
or
being blocked.
some kind, unveiling.
Fantastic.
That sounds good.
Absolutely.
Thanks for
Okay.
taking the initiative, being
Mhm.
creative, and making Selma a better place to live. Just makes our place look better. Thank you. That's what it's all about. Okay, Fire Chief Peterson.
Just a quick update on our new engine. I know that initially I'd communicated that we had hoped to have it in service by the end of May. We did decide kind of at the last minute to make some mounting changes to some of the heavier pieces of equipment that we had. Some of the mounts we felt were a little high and could be, a risk of injury, shoulder injury, back injury, things like that. So we've decided to lower some of those mounts so that the tools are a little more accessible, make it a little more functional.
What are mounts?
The mounts for, so say our rescue, we call them rescue struts. They're pretty heavy stabilization tools. The mounts that will hold that into place inside the compartment of the engine.
Oh, okay.
So we made some changes as to where we're gonna locate those. So there'll be a little bit of a delay in getting it into service, but we're hoping to, if all the pieces come in, equipment comes in, we're hoping to have it in service and a kind of a presentation ceremony, hopefully the first meeting in July.
And the company that the city bought the fire truck from is doing those changes? They're doing the changes, or
Correct.
is the city
It's it's not this company that we purchased the fire engine from. It's the dealer who helped us purchase it. He now will have it at his facility down in Southern California, and will be taking care of the mounting.
He's throwing it in. He's doing his accommodation for the city.
A little bit. There was a little bit of give and take with it. So we've got some reimbursement funds
What's
from.
the warranty period on one of those?
I'm sorry?
What's the warranty on
Ooh,
your fire engine?
I'm not positive on that. I'd have to look that up for you, but I'd be happy to do so.
It's not 20-year, 100,000 miles.
I got it, kind of.
100,000 miles.
It would probably get,
1 year.
it'd hit 20 years before it'll hit the 100,000, I'm sure.
That
so.
sounds good.
But, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Police Chief Garner?
Just one thing in my report that I want to emphasize. This Saturday is our next Saturday is our next Bringing Neighbors Together event. This Saturday, I should say, June 8th. And the Smart Center is hosting. You heard from some of those folks earlier today, and it's an honor for us to be at that facility this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and we hope that you can join us. That's it.
Okay. Mike Kirschner, Parks and Community Services.
Yeah, Mayor, members of City Council, Shane did mention the LED lights at Schaefer Park. If you saw the original lights and saw last Friday night, it's a humongous difference. So, unfortunately, now that ends the grant funds that was $226,000 we received for Salazar and Schaefer. So, I'm working with the housing-related department to wait for round 2, which is unfortunately not in sight. But if it is, we're going to reapply. Very good grant because they don't put a lot of restrictions on it. Just restricted on which parks you can do it with. So nice to have that. As far as I know, the mayor talked to me last week about the Proposition 68. We are looking at that parks grant. I'm going to be scheduling with Richard 5 community forums, which is part of the grant. They have to be within a half-a-mile radius of where the park would be located. So we're going to do ours at Pioneer Village because we could just look across the freeway and see the open land. So that's a new requirement. In the past, you had to have community forums. It didn't have to be within a location. So now you have to have a meeting within the radius of that. So if people ask you why Pioneer Village, then you can explain because it's part of the grant criteria. And we want to make sure we score all the points we can because it's very competitive.
Where are you going to advertise that?
We're going to be on our Facebook page, our city website page, and then just getting the word out to the enterprise.
How are we doing on that flat screen, finding a flat screen for the corner of 2nd and
I'm working through the schools. I've talked to Larry Texera a few months ago, so I'm going to catch him on how the school districts. Our first quote came in about 30,000, so I'm looking for more like the school size.
What if
The
Garfield
quote
got
we got
theirs?
was a little bit maybe too extravagant for us.
Garfield's is a good
If
size.
Garfield got theirs and it's not obtrusive, you know, it's kind of there. Are you looking for similar sizes?
Yeah, Garfield's are maybe just a little bit bigger,
Mm-hmm.
but we're working on that too.
Mike, what about the project that you have going there at Pioneer Village? Or you were gonna install additional restroom or?
Yeah, we're working on restrooms. We've actually had some concept designs to extend that sidewalk, and we've just updated another set of restrooms that are connected to the main building to make the ones handicap accessible.
Okay.
Actually, Joel Fedor's here did a lot of work. I thank him for it to get
great.
that up to ADA. So we do have one restroom now ADA compliant.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, we have rentals are in full swing at Pioneer Village. If you go by Saturday night,
Yeah,
you'll get to see them.
That's good.
great.
You're finally using it. All right, with
Okay.
that, we'll move on to council reports. Councilman Trujillo?
Busy week, busy month. I had a meeting with our Fresno County Supervisor, Buddy Mendez, along with the CID District Director, Mitch Ritchie, along with Mayor Pro Tem Franco. Items we discussed: police station, economic growth, and what plans he has or his plan of action in regards to the economic development plan that he has. Along with Mayor Pro Tem Franco, about a week and a half ago, we actually decided to step away from going to this CDC or the Las Vegas trip, and we decided to go to Sacramento. We felt that it would be a good time for us to go and do the legislative part as council members for the City of Selma in regards to the police department. It was very interesting, very informal, a lot of information. Met with the Chief of Staff of Mrs. Senator Hurtado, met with the Chief of Staff of the Assembly of Rambla, had a lot of good meetings. It was very interesting, very positive. Also attended the farmer's market. It was lots of fun. Attended the Relay for Life, good lunch, and attended a meeting with the Selma Business Alliance. I've been pretty busy and will stay being busy, and hopefully we can come up with some good ideas for the City of Selma.
Councilperson Guerra?
Okay. Yeah, I attended the 90th anniversary of Schmeisser's Farm Equipment. My husband and I had the pleasure of being godparents to our godson's first communion sacrament. I attended the NHCLC breakfast discussion at the Fresno People's Church. Guest speaker, Reverend Dr. Samuel Rodriguez and Ruben Narvete. Attended Rosalinda's Mexican Restaurant's Chamber Mixer. Attended my daughter Bianca's graduation. I attended the ribbon cutting for the Adventist Health and Valley Children's ceremony, which was a beautiful facility. Attended the Memorial Day services, and it was an honor to be present and also to have Army General Smiley as our keynote speaker. Participated in the Relay for Life Selma Kingsburg Fowler. I'd like to say thank you to the mayors, Mayor Cardenas from Fowler, Mayor Pro Tem Lauren North, and of course our mayor from Selma, Scott Robertson, that all were very supportive and gave some very nice speeches. And other than that, that's it for me.
Thanks. Councilman Avalos?
Boy, you're a busy woman. No, I attended the memorial ceremony, and I thank Bob for bringing the general down. Oh, okay, the boss down there bringing the general down. You know, not often we have a general, high-ranking person, you know, come down to the city of Selma and do a fantastic speech. In this country, what is important about this American flag, what it stands for, and I appreciate that individual very strongly, and thank him. And also, I attended the Selma King Air Quality Board. It was a good meeting. I requested some information for us in the city of Selma as far as the solar energy thing, efficiency, maybe down the road in the future, maybe putting solar panels on top of these sheds over here, that in these recreational sheds, trying to see some free solar operational funds. And also, I did the farmers mark downtown, and also I attended the cancer walk as well, and also I had the closing ceremony for the baseball kids here at the city of Selma, and that's a fun thing to come to, little people, closing ceremony, and watch the kids get excited, and the winners get to move on to the next championship playoff. And the major minors are going to have a playoff, I think, next Wednesday here in Selma, and the other team's going to be in Reedley at Chamaco Park in Reedley. So it's nice to see our community events. People are coming together, and the families coming out and seeing their kids play. And also, it's nice to I commend the people that work for the city of Selma. They have the positive attitude, moving in the right direction. Every department has a great attitude, and I thank the chamber as well, because getting people signed up to be part of the chamber, I thank you very much. And Cal Water has always been a person that helps out in our community very strongly, that in waste management and other stakeholders that come to the table to help the city of Selma for a better community. I thank them very much, and that's all I got to say. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Franklin.
Yes. Couple things before I make my announcement. I don't know if it goes to Public Works but Teresa, the exits are starting, the weeds, the vegetation, and all the cities are starting to grow. 2nd Street off-ramp is actually, in more particular, really out of hand. Can we call Caltrans and tell them to come pay us a visit?
I asked her, Gail Miller, she's at COG, Council of Governments. I asked
Yep.
her, they have a rotating
Right.
crew. They
Well-
got set back because of the rain.
Right.
But she said that they do come to Selma
Well-
on a rotating basis.
Right. Well, I don't know if the community knows, you can actually go to Caltrans website and submit a request. Like I went today, and I went to this csr.dot.ca.gov, and you could submit a request for your reeves. So I hope the community out there watching, we all get on our computers and bombard them with maybe 100 requests to come clean our weeds, because I'm sure they don't like seeing that. So maybe if we all as a group do this once a month, maybe we'll get a little bit faster service. So if you see it out there, it doesn't hurt to try. It only takes 2 minutes. The other thing is, I heard some more, we all aware of the homeless camp on Highland and 99. I don't believe that's city property, but
It's a railroad.
it's a railroad, isn't it?
Right. Sorry, that is a railroad, and yes, staff has been in contact with them and the county trying to get them to address that. So they have a tentative date that they were going to come out here to do that. They've been really backlogged, but what we were last told, that is on June 22nd, they would be out here to work on that.
I mean, just an update. That's fantastic. And
Yeah,
actually
June
kind-
22nd was the last we heard.
Okay. Shane, you kind of hit on my other thing. Is I had a resident concerned about, it was hard for her to see the street lines on Highland by Home Depot between Floral and Golden State. But you mentioned you're going to start going through the city, so.
Gearing up right now, we'll be painting full bore starting Monday.
So as long as if you get in that area sometime on your list, that would be great. Let me see. That said, I'd like to thank. So it's kind of a long list because we skipped the meeting here, but as Councilman Trio said, both him and I met with council member, board supervisor Buddy Mendez and Rich Mitchie. with the CID, and we just basically talked about economic development and with CID working together so that we can enhance our partnership. So we don't have, it's more of a teamwork thing. I also participate in the League of City golf tournaments. My apologies to the grounds crew at Dinuba because it wasn't pretty. And both Councilman Trio and I did go to Sacramento and spent 2 days there, dropping in on legislators just to advocate for the request that Senator Totto put in for our public safety request that she put in. So we did visit Senator Nancy Skinner's office, Senator Jim Beal, Senator John Morlach, Senator Holly Mitchell, Senator Ana Carriero, Senator Member Shirley Weber, Assembly Members Shirley Weber, Assembly Member Reginald Byron Jones Sawyer, and Assembly Member Melissa Melendez, Assembly Member Mark Stone, Assembly Member Rubio, and Assembly Member Phil Ting, as well as meeting with our representative, Mr. Arambula and Senator Hurtado, and talking with their chiefs of staff. Very good thing we went and we just trying to put a face to Selma. The reason we chose those people is that they all sit on budget committees and chairs, and we just went in unannounced and just said, please come support Selma, put a face to Selma, and we had very good feedback. So hopefully it makes a difference, but you never know once you leave. I attended with the mayor here a working lunch with Congressman Cox and Congressman Grijalva, who is the Natural House Resource Committee Chair. Very big deal to have him here in Selma. It's very great of TJ Cox. We talked about the unique water issues facing the Central Valley, whether you're a city, a farmer, or industry, or a water district. We all have these challenges. And how can we work together to do something? I do want to do a shout out to Cal Water because a lot of the communities are facing an issue called TCP 123, which is now not allowed in our drinking water, which I guess was in the past. But because of their foresight, they addressed some of the issue way before this regulation came into effect, and we have no issues with Selma with that. But I know Parlier does, and some other surrounding cities, and Parlier's saying they need like $16 million to fix their issue. Because, Steve, if I'm not mistaken, these filters are about $1 million each, right, per well? So I know we complain about our water rates and stuff like that, but I got to tell you, Selma consistently has good quality water. So I guess it's true. You get what you pay for. And I attended the Bringing Back Neighborhoods to Life event at the Advent Health. And Chief, I want to give a shout out to your police department because on your report I read, and I think the manager updated me about how you assisted Kingsburg. They had a shooting, how your department was able to apprehend that assailant as they were leaving the area. So great job for the police department. We all know, we all see the news, another mass shooting in Virginia. Parkland, that school shooting in Florida the year before that, and both these cities were so-called safest cities in their states. So it just shows that none of us are really immune from tragedy, whether you're a community or a person or an organization. So great job. And I know with the summer heat, the rising temperatures, not only is there a fire demand, but I hear, more activity for the police department, and, crime usually goes up during the summer. So my hat's off to both you guys, and I hope you handle the pressure that's coming this way. And I'm kind of did a lot of talking, so I attended the Memorial Day, the Relay for Life. I went there I wasn't there in the morning, but I did go in the evening. And I think that's it. So.
Okay, I attended the ribbon cutting celebration at TG Schmeiser. They graciously offered to be a reference for Selma, for any businesses that want to come to Selma, to be good for our economic development. I attended the prayer breakfast in Fresno for the National Hispanic Christian Leadership Council. I listened to two great speakers. One I read all the time in the Fresno Bee, Ruben Navarrete, Harvard graduate, Sanger native, and the Reverend Sam Rodriguez. They made some really very interesting roundtable observations. One of the things Pastor Rodriguez said, really profound, don't lose faith. Always question the church hierarchy, but not the faith itself. He said, separate the wineskin from the wine itself. I think there was a quote of Matthew 7:15 about, beware of the false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but are inwardly wolves. Don't worry about that. Worry about yourself and worry about your faith and doing the right thing, and everything works out. I was really inspired by that meeting. I attended the chamber mixer at Rosalinda's restaurant. The next chamber mixer will be at the Second Chance Animal Shelter. I understand that dogs will be adopted that evening, if anybody wants to take a look and walk some dogs and eat some hot dogs and have a good time. Starts at 5 o'clock. We will be, never gets old. The pun never gets old. I attended the Congressman T.J. Cox's roundtable on water. Water's always such a huge issue, and it was a very good presentation from Phil Desitoff, the general manager at Consolidated Irrigation District, who provides our water, that they've been able to pump 400,000 acre-feet of water back into our groundwater this year. And of the comments, we went around the room, and a lot of the comments were, including mine, what are we going to do when there's the next drought? Because we really need storage. We really need to think about our next drought because it's cyclical, and we know we're going to have it. We need to be ready for it. And it was great to hear that CID is looking at that, and they are doing that in the federal government, including the chairman of this congressional committee, Natural Resources Committee. They can help us with federal dollars for above groundwater storage too. We really need help with that. We are having coffee with the mayor at Starbucks on June 11th at 10 a.m. I'll be giving out a few community awards at that. I want to invite everybody. Everybody's invited. It's going to be a good opportunity for people to ask questions and get a nice cup of coffee at the same time. You know, for years people used to say, Selma, come on, we don't even have a Starbucks here. And now we have a Starbucks, and we're growing and we're building on the little, sometimes it's the little things that you start with to do big things. I would invite people to, of course, make their opinion known to Caltrans. At the same time, I would invite people to adopt a highway too, to adopt a section and be part of the solution. It's always good to be a voice, but it's, just as good to do things too, helpfully, to be helpful and be part of the solution. I attended the Council of Governments meeting last Thursday from 5:30 to 8 p.m. when the last farmers market was going on, so I couldn't attend that, but it was good to be there. I attended the Team Selma quarterly meeting. I attended Father Lupe Rios's 10th anniversary of his ordination and presented him with a certificate of recognition. I want to thank our city clerk for getting that done so quickly. Really appreciate that. It looked really good. I attended the Veterans Memorial Day program, which was heartfelt. It was a great program, and I can't wait to see what the veterans are doing for our Lincoln Park. I cleaned kennels at the shelter on Sunday and Saturday, and then attended the Relay for Life. Got the shelter looking good for the mixer, hopefully. Attended the chamber mixer at Rosalinda's. I think I said that. And I got a call today, speaking of animals, from an architect who's designing an animal shelter for the city of Kerman. City of Kerman is 15,000. They heard I was associated with the shelter as a volunteer, and they want to walk through because they're designing a shelter for Kerman. And they just want to see, I've heard good things about our community, that, we are an inspiration to others. And I asked how big is the shelter going to be. It's going to be 3,500 square feet. And what's the budget for the new shelter? It's going to be $1 million. It's a city of 15,000. So, it kind of reminds me of my conversation with the mayor of Orange Cove. Asked him what his budget for animal control was, $153,000 a year. So, people are concerned about the animals out there, and it's not free, but it pays so much in terms of dividends and rewards. And I was glad to hear that. A few meetings ago, I talked about sales tax, how it's changing. Sales tax is changing. With the internet, I had some information about that. There's a change in sales tax collection for internet-based companies. Since that time, Governor Newsom signed into law AB 147. I have a detailed discussion if anyone wants to look at the implication for sales tax increase in California cities. But at this point, what I can say and what we know is that the city of Selma will be receiving more sales tax revenue from internet sales of companies with sales exceeding a threshold of 500,000 in California, regardless of where they're from, courtesy of the Wayfair versus South Dakota landmark decision. Exactly how much the city's going to get at this point is hard to say because the law is new, and taxes haven't been collected yet. But estimates range for all cities under the 1% Bradley Burns local cities tax allocation from an additional $122 million a year to $244 million a year. So that will be definitely positive. At COG, I had the honor of being one of the unanimous votes to award the City of Selma the $270,000 for the Transit-Oriented Development Grant, which just opened up the smaller cities last year, and which City of Selma, with the help of Townsend, the grant writer, Richard Harmon and Townsend, really fought for this and helped get this done for the city, which will enable the city to move the bus stop and do city and sidewalk improvements around that area. At the state level, SB 50, which was a big bill for housing, that would have allowed anybody to build a fourplex within a half mile of a transit stop. It failed, so local governments made their voices known, and it would have overridden local laws. So it's kind of like the neighborhoods versus the urban areas. That's how it was characterized at COG. The smaller cities won out. The suburban areas won out on that one. For how long, who knows? But at least for this year, it doesn't look like the local housing laws will be preempted by the state housing laws. And it's another blow to the governor's plan to build a lot more houses in California. So I'm sure he's going to be looking for other ways to make that up. Finally, the 269 bridge in Huron is scheduled to be completed in November 2019. What that means for us is our Measure C funds. We're next. The Golden State Corridor project is next after that. So we can all look forward to that road, to that area from Fowler through Selma to Kingsburg getting renovated. We can look forward to that bike path, and I think we need to get Peggy down here for a presentation for Measure C, where we are, because I think the design's pretty close to completion, and it'd be nice to have her come down here and talk about what we're looking for.
And where are they going to start? Should start in the middle, is what I say.
We'll see.
I mean, start in the middle and work your way out.
Yeah, it's definitely a political situation. Yeah. Where do we start? So that's definitely something that hasn't been decided yet, but they are working on the design at this point. They may start in multiple areas, they were saying, instead of just one. So, all right, with that, we will move on to oral communications. Would anybody like to get up at this point and have one last word tonight?
Two 2376 Sierra View Street. My name is Angel. Just like to throw a little shout out as well to the fire chief and his department. My neighbor who lives a few doors down from me has continually been calling you guys, and you guys seem to be responding pretty quick. And he has high blood pressure. He's an older gentleman, so pretty much without that quick response, he probably wouldn't be alive. So that's you're doing your job, so thank you on that. I think it's a good thing that Mr. TJ Cox has an office here in Selma, so we could flood him with our inquiries. And I think it's a good thing that we have that new sign. Brings more gratification in terms of the aesthetics of our city, so that's pleasing to see. And Mr. Franco, I will throw a request out there. I guess I'll just go on YouTube again and find that link that you said. And speaking of YouTube, I just have a suggestion. I think that, as far as the audio is concerned, in here it sounds pretty good, but when I'm at home, and I suspect the other people who are at home may not be able to hear very well, even when I put my headphones on, I put my Mac on like full blast, I still cannot quite hear. So maybe if we could just kind of turn that up just a little bit, just a suggestion, maybe just my audio, but I think it's something that it could be a good thing, and that's it.
Thanks, Angel.
I guess this is time to bring it up, but kudos to you, David and Franco, Caltrans. Everybody's taking charge of trying to get Selma to look a little bit cleaner, and really appreciate that. That's very nice, and those signs are beautiful. We found, well, a group of us in our building and in our block want to go ahead and put some lights on the tree trunks, just the basics, until Isaac, really appreciate you looking for the grants or whatever it is to go to the full force of pulling those sidewalks and the trees or whatever it is going to be. But as you all know, we are having the farmers markets now on High Street, and they're gonna get a little more busier with school being out. So this could just be something to propose right now, to just put some lights on the tree trunks. I found 2 licensed electricians who are willing to volunteer with their wives. One's a business owner downtown. The wife is a business owner who has a lot of females in her business as well, and they're all willing to volunteer. We got about 15 of us who are willing to come on a Sunday. I want to thank Trujillo. I think he said he wants to donate $300 towards the lights. And if you're willing to make breakfast on one Sunday, we could bang it out within a couple hours. And that will just be to, what everybody's talking about here, make Selma look a little more inviting, friendly, and why not make it look and brighten it up at night. And if this is just to help the farmers market right now in our little block, let's just start with that. And then this is all volunteer, just like you guys are talking about. Everyone's willing to volunteer. Everyone's willing to buy some lights, because a lot of them is in front of their businesses. And let's just start with there. And I hope we could get the approval to move forward. I love the fact that Selma's starting to take charge of making things happen, and that's a wonderful thing, because we're the ones that live here, and we're the ones that want it to look nice, and we're all willing to step up and help out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Motion to adjourn? Second? We're adjourned. Thank
Second.
you, everybody.